So a couple years ago, I finished grad school, and I was looking for something exciting to do. And I'd already been to Nepal twice, and I thought just traveling around. And so I thought, it would be great to give back to Nepal and do some volunteer work there. So, so I spent almost all of 2007 there. And I thought about how many homeless dogs there are all over Kathmandu, which is the main city in Nepal. And I thought there must be some organization doing something about this, because it's ridiculous. And so I think I just Googled Kathmandu dog or something like this, and the Kathmandu Animal Treatment Centre came up. So I got in touch with them and I started volunteering there. And first I'll tell you about Nepal in general, just to give you some context to understand how things work there. And so Nepal is an amazing place. Most of it's really rural. Most of the country isn't even accessible by roads, so people just walk or ride horses to get wherever they need to go. A lot of people live without electricity too. It's a really simple, traditional life. And these people are yak herders that live in tents.
Are most people nomads or established residents?
Most people are established farmers, but in some areas where the farming isn't that good, they farm during the summer and then they're nomadic in the winter. And they bring their cattle or yaks around.
Where did you live when you were there?
I'll get to that. That's a great question. I'll get to that in a couple slides.
We'll wait.
I had a little hut on top of a mountain. No, I lived in the city. But yeah, the backpacking there is amazing, though. It's really, if you're into hiking, it's a wonderful place to go. And there are mountains and glaciers. It's amazing. And there are, oh, thanks. There are villages and monasteries just way up in the mountains. You have to walk for days to get to them. And it's really, obviously breathtaking scenery. And the people there are so friendly. Even people that have almost nothing and are living in these tiny little houses, still, they'll invite me in for tea, and they're just go out of their way to try to show me what the right trail is for me to take. They're just so genuine, and it's really heartwarming. And a lot of people herd yaks to make a living. And horses are a popular way of getting things around. People, if somebody needs supplies or when they're bringing crops down to the towns, it either goes by horse or it goes on someone's back. But Kathmandu is a totally different place. Kathmandu, it's hectic and crowded and polluted, and there's lots of smog and trash everywhere. But there's still these really friendly people in Kathmandu.
Is that a shop or something?
This is a restaurant.
Oh.
So she's just like sitting on the floor there frying up all kinds of things that I can't really identify, but it's really yummy. And the kids and dogs out everywhere, colorful characters, and there's this amazing sense of history there, where there are temples and Hindu and Buddhist statues. You can't even compare them to anything in America. Stuff that's thousands of years old, literally. And there's still, even in the city, people have kind of a rural mentality in a lot of ways. People still know all their neighbors. They live their lives mostly just out on the streets, and families have been living in the same house for generations, so people have grown up surrounded by the same people. So there's a really strong sense of community and of everyone taking care of each other. So I lived in a neighborhood on the outskirts of Kathmandu, where I wasn't right in the heart of all the traffic and craziness, but there were still people around everywhere. And another kind of rural tradition that people have is they live by the sun. As soon as it starts to get light, people are out and about buying fruit and vegetables, doing their laundry. The upstairs neighbor's kid would start playing heavy metal at like 7 in the morning. Yeah, it was great. And so Kathmandu is not the ideal place for me, but that's where everything happens in Nepal. If you want to be involved in all the nonprofits that are really doing a lot of work to change Nepal are all in Kathmandu. Yeah, it's the only real city there. Yeah. And this is, on the left there, that was my local video store down the street from where I lived. Some kid converted his parents' garage into he sold bootleg DVDs and CDs. And so things in Nepal just don't usually work well. And if you spend any time there, you just have to come to terms with that. Like there's gasoline shortages, frequent power outages. Like when I left there, they were having 6 hours of power outages every day. And they were scheduled, but no one knew what the schedule was. So the power would just go out and you think, okay, well I have half an hour left on my laptop. What am I gonna do? And this was, I don't know if you can really tell, but this was during a gasoline shortage, and all those motorbikes there are queued up to get their ration of gas from a gas station that's like a quarter-mile down the road. And on the other side of the gas station is where all the cars line up to get their gas. So that's how things go there, and you just have to kind of deal with it. You deal with it or get really frustrated.
So, Greg, are there bicycles?
Yeah, a lot of people, motorcycles are a lot more popular than bicycles. But yeah, because of the gasoline problems, a lot of people get motorbikes, and you can obviously go a lot further for the same amount of gas. Bicycles haven't really caught on in a cultural way. It's more of like a kid's thing. But motorbikes have gotten really big. And also that the government in Nepal has been really ineffective for a long time. And one result of this is that people kind of take the law into their own hands. And so there are lots of demonstrations and protests. Like this is one of the communist parties was having some kind of protest. And these protesters will just shut down streets, they'll close the highway, burn tires in the middle of the roads. So all of a sudden you can't get anywhere, you can't get to work or get across the city. And the government just doesn't have the resources to deal with this. So during a protest like this, the police typically just sit around and watch. That's what they do. I don't know why they're even there. I guess they're there in case people start killing each other. But short of that, they just hang out in the shade.
Well, we got that here. It's called men working. Oh, sorry.
So everything kind of happens late in Nepal. You know, meetings always start late and run really late. And a lot of times I would feel like I was sitting through these long meetings and nothing would get accomplished. But it was actually good for me because it forced me to shift my expectations and to just accept that things move slowly there, and you have to be sort of spontaneous and take advantage of whatever opportunities you get. You know, you can plan out what you're going to do all week, and it's never going to work. You have to just roll with whoever you meet or whatever situation happens to pop up. So it was actually really good for me to learn to work in a more spontaneous way. And another thing I learned is to always bring a camera with you because you never know when you're going to see strange stuff. So the local zoo evidently rents out elephants. You're having a birthday party or something like that. So it looks like this elephant was on the way to a party or some sort of event. And I don't know who's going to clean up that mess the elephant left behind it on the road. Yeah, I don't know whose job that is. So I guess I'll talk a little more about the role of what animals do in Kathmandu. There are stray cows around. Nepal's a Hindu country, and so it's technically, it's illegal to kill cows. And so and you can also earn good karma by setting a cow free. So these cows just sort of wander around the city, and yeah, and that's just part of life there. Sometimes you have to push a cow out of your way to get into a shop.
Do they treat yaks the same way, or yaks completely?
Yaks are different. And even actually, most of the yaks are actually yak-cow hybrids because their wild yaks are hard to deal with. But yeah, yaks don't get that privilege. You can kill yaks. You can. Those yaks are just like normal animals. It's only cows specifically that you're not allowed to kill. Yeah, it's a good question though. And here's just another example of rural life and city life coming together. I saw this. This is right in the middle of the city, and this kid for like 15 minutes, he was trying to convince taxi drivers to let him put his goats in the taxi and get a ride somewhere. He must have just bought them at a market or something. Yeah, and finally he did get a taxi driver to let him do it, but the driver was not happy. And I just think this is a funny picture. I don't know. Maybe that's my sense of humor.
Twisted.
Yeah.